Hi, everybody. I'm an idiot, and I hit the stop button. So here we are. Welcome to part 2 of episode 56 of The Adventure Party. So we were talking about Thornwatch and how absolutely frickin' awesome it was. They were looking for $78,000 to meet their goal. With 30 days to go, they're at $224,627.
It's going to be tight, guys.
We're wondering if this is actually going to launch. No, if Penny Arcade puts their name on something, it's kind of like what was it, Exploding Kittens. Once Matt had put his name on it, it just went. It was going to happen.
Did Rob already sign up for this? Because this seems like
it might be something he might not know about it yet, but he will soon. So you're gonna have another game for your library. Congratulations.
Hooray!
Yeah.
I'll just clear out the back room. Yeah.
I am, as nobody else can see this, I am pointing to Jessica and showing her our game library section, which
is getting close.
Yeah.
But you
This is how we're funding our children's
college. No, this is how we're
high
taking
school,
money away from our children's
No.
college education.
You liar!
As a man who owns over 6,000 comics, that's bullshit. And we all know it. We all know it.
I have been duped. Shit. Well,
And
Max,
there you go.
your future at McDonald's
That's right.
Oh,
will
wait.
be long and illustrious.
They have, getting back on course here, they have multiple pledge levels for this. $3, thank you, is essentially what you get for $3. $78, though.
However,
Yes, $78 actually gets you the game. And it will get to you September of 2017. So it will be a year before it gets in your hands. But again, the Penny Arcade folk don't screw around, and once something's going to happen, hell or high water, it will happen. So
they don't screw around. Have you watched their D&D podcast?
I was gonna say.
When it comes to the business of it, they don't screw
I was
around.
gonna say, a clarification, perhaps.
There's plenty of shenanigans in other, the webcomic especially. But yeah, when it comes to the business and the brand, they don't mess around. So $78 gets you in the door for an interchangeable card game that this is one of 3. So boy, if you're a fan of Penny Arcade and you're a fan of card-based RPG type activity, this is definitely for you. And I'm very interested, but I've spent so much on Kickstarter stuff this year. I have to.
Apparently, an education.
It's just a different type of education that he's investing in.
Yeah. No, I'm investing in fun for now. And then in my golden years, I'll end up, when I'm alone and living in a hovel, I can heat my hovel with the game.
With memories.
So, yes, exactly. I remember Exploding Kittens. It was really fun. Onto the fire pile. Now I can stay warm through the night.
I just assumed we would all pitch in and buy a hotel together and live in that and play games till we die.
Well,
Ooh.
we've often talked about creating the commune, so
That is
Somebody's got to pull the lottery.
Yes.
Guys. Come on,
And
we're not doing the Bates Motel.
that is very true.
You want something nice.
Yes. Spa.
But we're not going motel. We're going like plaza, something classy with a pool and a sauna and like massage service without the happy ending.
Brad,
Make that clear.
you're in northern
Got it,
Wisconsin.
you did that.
It's pronounced sauna.
Oh God.
Don't have Amy Frost come here and get you, because I believe she pronounces it correctly too.
Well, that's
Or someone I know does. Someone named Amy. I don't know.
yeah. Well, that's
I don't really know anyone. Everything's happening in my mind, and I don't know what's real and what's not. But that's okay.
Do you need a hug, Glenn? I'm sensing some some need for a hug and some love here.
No, Glenn's just going to the home first.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
Check it out for us. Get it ready.
That's right. Prepare the normals.
All right. Enough of nursing home talk. Hey, let's get back to our discussion.
What was that again?
I did roll 20 and doing some White Wolf stuff, I guess. So, yeah, our discussion was. I can't even switch back into a serious gear now. I feel kind of weird. It's
Talking
like
about
this whole.
sexism.
Well, yeah,
That's right.
in gaming. From my perspective, when I started gaming in, I think I was probably a sophomore, so 85, 86, and playing Iron Crown Enterprises. Yeah, well, I got in late. What can I say? Late bloomer. And it was guys getting together in the Marathon County Public Library and getting shushed a number of times. But I don't think I actually gamed with a woman until like a couple of years later, and I want to punch the 17-year-old me in the face because he was kind of a dick. The game really kind of felt at the time that it was more of a dude thing, It didn't feel like it was an activity that would interest women in the least. And now that I'm much older and wiser, I know that that's not the case. I have gamed with all of you. I have LARPed with most of you. And it was a fun, inclusive activity. And there were no weird shenanigans, at least that I saw. I'm sure maybe one or maybe more of you have a story of weird shenanigans in gaming. And that's what we want to talk about here. We want to talk about if things have progressed from the time that you started gaming and when it first came to mind. Like when I think of my early exposure to gaming, I think of like artwork from Larry Elmore and Frank Frazetta, and all of it was very kind of sexualized. Dudes are all wearing all sorts of armor and stuff, and women are wearing next to nothing. That doesn't seem to be an inclusive sort of impression that one should get if they want to get into gaming, and it could be off-putting. So I invited you all here to have that discussion about your introduction to gaming and what that experience was like, and if you feel that over the course of time it has become more inclusive, more or less maybe sexualized, or less pointing out the differences between male and female gamers, what has taken place over time. So what I would like to do is start with talking about each of your first gaming experiences, how you got into gaming in the first place. And I'm going to start with Dawn.
Cool. So, like you, is back in the later half of the 80s. And I really believe that your introduction to RPGs is hugely important. My gaming group that we started with was primarily very strong women. We had, by far, in the group we were playing with, it was Joyce, Liz Witt, Shorty. There was a bunch of women, and then there was my brother, Joyce's brother, Seth. In comparison, there was definitely more women than guys in the group. And that is how we thought it was supposed to be.
Sure.
So did we look at the art and go, this is kind of awkward? No, because we were in high school and all of us women went, we could totally be that. Let's be Julie Strain when we grow up.
Sure. Sure. Okay.
And quite frankly, enough of the men in the artwork was just as scantily clad as the women.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I guess I didn't really even, to be honest, I guess I didn't really pay attention. I was an adolescent boy, so I guess I really didn't look that
Guys?
closely.
Huh?
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
I mean, especially, and eventually a boyfriend introduced me to the Dragonlance saga, so Larry Elmore's art did become quite the thing, and yeah, he drew scantily clad men as much as women.
Okay. Now let's move on, and I'll pose that question to Gretchen. Gretchen.
Okay. My dad actually gave me my first D&D set. It was a Christmas present in 1985. It was in grade school, and so since I was the one with the books, I got to play. But I was the only girl, or my friend Sarah and I were the only girls. She played occasionally. Her brother and her brother's group were playing Advanced D&D when we started playing the basic set. And so the first miniatures I ever saw were their miniatures and them playing. And yeah, most of the miniatures I saw were scantily clad, heavy metal, kind of artwork type of thing. And it didn't exactly bother me, but I did realize that I was like one of the only girls playing D&D, and I really enjoyed it. I loved the fantasy and the shared storytelling of it, and kind of stuck with it. But it was kind of like when I started in comics too. I was like the lone girl hanging out with a bunch of guys, and I put up with probably a lot more than I should have at the time.
Sure.
Just not even realizing. And as my husband can tell you, I'm probably the bad feminist in the family. Like, he will tell me when I'm being inappropriate. So I have to scale it back sometimes, because I'm like, oh, well, this is just how things are. But since then, I've learned a lot, and I've grown, and I think gaming has grown.
Okay.
But we'll get back into that.
Okay. Kat, I pose that question to you.
Well, yeah, so we're in the 80s. I was role-playing myself, coming up with these fantastical stories and running around the many acres my parents own, long before that. And then I was dating this person, and I came over to his house unexpectedly, and he's like, some guys are gonna come over and we're gonna play a game. And I'm like, oh, okay. It's like, okay. And they showed up to play Marvel Superhero.
Okay.
And I was told I could not tell anyone that they did this, because they were all the popular guys and the jocks. And so that in itself was hysterical, but I'm like, oh my god. This is like finding, Xanadu. Holy crap, here we are, So I was super excited, and I played that for a little while, and then eventually I got to play some D&D, which I was immediately like, oh my god, this system kills me. I got through it, and I'd always nudge towards guys, we don't need dice. We could just tell these stories together. And over the years, I've played, and I run a co-creator and co-GM a game that's been running for 6 years now. There's like 30 people in it. But the thing is, sexism is still prevalent in gaming. Just like women still deal with sexism in other aspects of their life, we are still dealing with it here. And we can point to things like Gamergate and stuff like that. I mean, it certainly is around. I think there's more awareness, and I think there are more games that actually gear towards women and including them. And I think, talking about White Wolf, thank you very much, Brad, for saying I hate it. Not true, Mark. Mark Reinhagen, who I think lives in like Croatia or something right now. I don't hate it. That's not true. But I remember that source book, and I could swear, it had like the little stories it told as it went through each section was told about a female.
Yep.
This badass vampire. I was like, dang, that was just new, and I was excited to see that. That was fantastic. So I'm so glad of how far we've come, and I'm so glad of how, that we're all working on this and aware, and that we still have stuff to accomplish.
Okay. Now, Jessica, I will ask that of you. What was your first game experience?
I'm obviously the late bloomer here. I didn't actually have any exposure to role-playing until college and meeting Kat. And doing that first incarnation of the LARP with vampires in the student union.
That's right.
And it was wretched, and we just were down by the where they had the little stage.
Yep.
And it was horrible, and that was my first role-playing experience. So we're talking, what, 93? 94, somewhere in there.
94.
And so my first experience, unlike a lot of people, was LARPing.
Sure.
And then going to tabletop. I think aside from the White Wolf system, my first system did a little. I think Dale at one point tried to get a Rifts campaign off the ground, and it didn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, like we got
the story of many.
Exactly. But I think we literally got as far as putting the characters together, and then that was it. But the first real system I played in was Champions. So I didn't understand all the drama with whatever reboots and whatnot with D&D, because I was like, if it's Champions, I'm a happy girl. When you talk, I was very fortunate and probably have a very unusual experience in the sense that where I gamed with everyone who's on the show right now. My husband and I gamed in different groups, even though we had mutual friends. So he would have gaming night with one group in college, and then I would maybe do it a different night. Basically the same pool of people. So we had the opportunity to have very diverse experiences and exposure to. Basically, Kat was my gateway drug. She was my dealer, because she's pretty much exposed me, I think, to every system I've ever played in, with the exception of one. So, thank you, Kat.
It is my utter pleasure.
Please, just one more D10. Just need one more D10 to get through the day.
God, you don't know how true that is.
Unfortunately. So it was just I had very strong female role models in life to teach me what it was about to do basically adult imagination play.
Sure. Okay.
So and at that point, I don't think any of the men who was in our peer group would dare, with any seriousness, be sexist. So I don't think I had I had to deal with a lot of the stigmas that maybe the other three ladies on who started 10 years before I did had to, because by the time I was brought in, I was dealing with an older group.
Sure.
But it helped to have people like Kat and Joyce and others who just presented just strong female characters.
Sure.
And strong female personalities, people who didn't brook crap.
Yep. And you know, that peer group was very matriarchal,
Yeah, very
Uh,
matriarchal.
with Joyce kind of being in control of that. So, uh, okay, let's move on to, um, let's see. Have any of you had a negative experience where somebody made you feel really uncomfortable in a game? Not looking for specifics, but has something like that happened?
Oh,
Well,
yes.
I think we've all dealt with asshats. I mean, you know that's life. You know, who will either make you feel like a lesser person, either your character and your vision of your character, whether it's tabletop, LARP, online, whatever, doesn't fit their vision, and therefore you have a contest of wills.
Okay.
You know, have I been made felt unwelcome? Yes, but not necessarily because I'm a woman,
Okay.
just because the other person was a dick.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Well, I think we had episodes in the LARP in that decade of it. We had some people who demonstrated inappropriate behavior
Absolutely.
and who made other women feel unsafe.
Okay.
You know, and we dealt with it, and I feel that we dealt with it well. You know, but those things did happen, and there's not like, you know, we don't have a way to screen somebody really.
That's
Yeah,
true.
Yeah.
But you know, we handled it appropriate. That person was not allowed to return, and we made sure that, you know, that recall asking the person who the woman that was the fixation, you know, maybe walk you to your car, and you know, kept in contact and made sure, you know, that this this person was safe and wanted our help in that way.
Yeah, and just so people have a point of reference for the LARP that we're talking about, or at least the structure, that was at a university, and it was open to college students and other people to come. But if there were, you know, if something was amiss, or you know, somebody was doing something that was not good, they could be asked to leave.
And we were a student group,
Mhm.
Yeah.
so we had, you know, our bylaws and all of that stuff. So we had a structure that enabled us to do that.
Yeah. And I think I was very much in the periphery at that point. I had just probably started gaming, because I remember something had happened, and I didn't get to hear much about what happened, but something bad had happened, and I was on the outside of the group at that point, so I hadn't really heard. But it was good to know that there was something in place to stop things like that from continuing. Because
Yeah, and we did rules about touching.
Mhm.
Yes.
You know, you establish
Absolutely.
rules about, you know, what is appropriate in getting this person's consent, and you know, because there's levels of like, oh, well, we knew each other, so there were certain things that we were comfortable with, but as new people would come and play and join us, you know, it's kind of establishing those boundaries and making sure people are okay with it, and you know, respecting when people said, no, I don't want this, or this does work.
Well, and honestly, you know, there were certain scenes that got very heated,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, people would lose themselves because they were in that moment, and
Sure.
you had to have rules in place for everybody's safety.
Sure. I remember playing a character where I think I had something kind of pointedly happen, where people were very angry with my character. So, yeah, I look back at that time, and I really wish I had a time machine because that was just it was so fun. The structure and everything for that LARP, it was just a perfect storm of really good times. Now, I've often wondered if there is a myth to like the tone and creation of games. Is there a difference between a tone and structure of a male-run game versus a female-run game, or does it come down to the storyteller experience and ability of the individual? Is there any difference in the games that you guys have been in, that have been run either by in my head, I've played in a lot of male-run games where it's just hack and slash. There's no role-playing whatsoever. It's just, we're going to roll dice and we're just going to kill things. Is that universal?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. I think if you have a very good GM, they will cater it to the tastes and the styles of their players and what their players are interested in. I think, not to drop deities' names, but Todd does a very good job of ensuring that there's enough story and there's enough intrigue and there's enough action and there's enough this. But I do think women tend to focus on the story more.
Okay.
And the layers of the story, and not that action isn't as important, but I don't, because who doesn't like to go in and kill a bunch of stuff? I get that, but in the games that I have played in, I notice that it seems like women tend to try to look at things from different angles and try to infuse different, maybe emotional, and I don't mean emotional like, oh, it's got to be all full of drama, but to make things maybe more cinematographic, more like a movie, so that you're pulling on other senses and you're getting other things other than, all right, you kick open the door, there's a gazebo, kill the gazebo.
Okay.
Am I making sense? It's
Yeah.
late.
I think. Well, no. I think I'm picking up what you're saying there.
Okay.
Kat, you mentioned earlier that you've co-run a game for 6 years.
Yep.
And you've played in a variety of other games.
And I've been in games that was run for several years by my friend Simone. And she brings all the things to the table. There is really well thought out and well described action that's really satisfying for people that want that, and okay, well, here's how this strike comes down, and then you as the player describe what your character does. And for some people who are really well versed in martial arts and weapons and things like that, which she also is, they write these beautiful scenes and tell these great scenes. Whereas I am like, I keep hitting him until he stops. Like I don't know. I use my skills, and on my sheet I have skills for this. Can we get to the talking? Because the part I'm good at. So in our game that Christopher and I run, Agents of Blackmore, we both have things that we're good at, and that we bring to the table with that. And he has done this for much longer and is fantastic at it. But there's things like that I keep in my head, like what are all the NPCs up to? Like especially like the top tier ones. What's their motivation? And so we'll talk about something happening, and then I'll say, "What, how that person, this NPC, is going to react here." And that's kind of my thing. But I think that's my thing, and I don't know that that's indicative of my gender, per se. I think we get people who, like was already mentioned, is sort of like knowing what your players want.
Sure.
There's nothing wrong with the hack and slash. if everybody's satisfied with that, go for it. You know, if you want, like for me, if you can make me cry in character and like go to that place and dig
Sure.
that deep,
Exactly.
that's the win for me. That's like we have told a really good story. If I can stay in character, you know, and like as I keep doing this, I kind of set like these goals for myself, and like you take on different affectations and accents, and like guess what, you guys, I play a quiet character.
I'm sorry.
know.
Have I called the right number? Hello.
Quiet. Shout out. Yeah, I play a quiet character in a game, like because I wanted to see if I could still do this. I'm really active in the game,
Okay.
but it is not someone who's doing that. So, you know, there's just different things, and I think we have evolution as players and
Mhm.
evolution as GMs. And it's that communication of like, what are your needs? What do you want this game to be for you? And then figuring out, can this game be that thing?
Okay. Gretchen.
You know, I've played in a lot of different games, but I will say that it really depends on the person running the game and, you know, them setting it, again, like what they said, setting it for the player characters. But I've played with a lot of different GMs, and some GMs are just more intuitive or more sensitive, and so even it doesn't necessarily matter in gender, because Jeff Waltersdorf is a very like intuitive, story-driven GM, where I've played with others that have been hack and slash.
Sure.
So, you know, if you can play with a group and have a good rapport with them, you could probably play just about any system and make it a really good time and tell a really good story, even if you don't necessarily care for dice, or even if you don't necessarily care for the mechanics of the game.
Sure. Okay. And Dawn.
Hi. Yeah, I agree. It definitely depends on the game, who's running the game, and I've been very fortunate. In my early experiences, the people running the game were all using modules, which was very convenient for learning the game. But obviously, as skill increased and I got involved with better gamers, again, I was very fortunate to have a very diverse gaming group, not just with starting out, but through college and beyond. So, yeah, definitely. Definitely what the other ladies have said.
Okay.
I can't expand on that further.
Okay. So if we were to boil this down, pay attention to the players, what the players are interested, what they want to get out of a game, and work towards giving everybody an opportunity to have that moment to shine, to get the thing that they like out of a game, and not really focus on anything else. Just cooperative storytelling to have a good time, no matter who's playing, and be respectful, and you know, don't be a dick. Have fun, and just do the thing that you're there to do. Play and have a good time. Okay, that's great. Anybody else have anything else that they would like to add to this before we wrap things up?
Well, what is? I guess I have a question. What has been yours and Glenn's experience role playing with women? I mean, you know, or have you either of you played where you've had female GMs? I mean, you know, it sounds. I mean, with the exception of isolated incidences, it sounds like your guests have all had very positive experiences. They've embraced their own roles and have chosen to play their characters and not look at, well, I'm a girl.
Sure.
I mean, I may be playing a female character, or I may play a male character. I mean, you know, I don't think that anyone who's on the show as a guest has let their gender be a detriment to enjoying the game.
Sure. You know, I think that I was in a Call of Cthulhu game that Joyce ran, which, you know, Cthulhu. And that was, you know, she was playtesting something. I think she was going to run it at a con. And that was a diverse group of folks. And it was a good time. But I don't think I've been in a whole lot of, you know, games that have been run by women. I know there was at least a year. Did you ever run, Kat? One of the LARPs?
I was just part of the team.
Yeah.
I mean, I was. Yeah, because there was the storyline. Now I'm thinking that Ian was in. I mean, I was definitely part of the storyboard.
Yeah.
And
well,
did
there was
stuff
the
like
year
that.
that I ran, and I gave
Right.
you the Mama storyline.
Right, we
in
did
Point
that
of
one.
Darkness. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, for that, it was. I think that year it was. I wanted to pick people that I thought I had ideas, and I thought that they ran to the certain strengths of individuals. So I specifically picked you to do the Mama storyline because I thought that would fit very well for the type of.
Thank you for letting me
player-
tap into my creepiness.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, it was just like a really
Yeah.
thematically weird and interesting thing, and I knew that would be something that you were interested in, so I sent that your way, and then I can't remember what I gave to Ian, and then I took something else, but it was just, you know, in that case, it was like I trust you. Here you go, and do the thing, and. But I can't think of any other games that I have been in that have been.
The
run
last-
by a
One of the
woman.
last years of the LARP, Jess ran it.
That's true.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Huh.
Well, that was you.
That was me.
No, I totally forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and it
That was one where I had to kick a player out because he was. He was.
Oh.
Yeah. Big guy.
It actually kind of is sexism. That was someone who,
Yeah.
in my opinion, could not respect the fact that there was a woman
Girl
in
power.
authority over him. And we can go into detail,
There's no need.
There's no
but
need.
there's no need. But I think there, you know,
Yeah.
that was difficult for
That was the year where we had 2 ass hats that we had to ask out. I had a rough year when I ran that game.
That's right. I remember the one. I don't remember the second.
The
but
the other one was the guy who had such issues with because we said you couldn't bring in props, you had to do cards, and he had that female friend who was not quite right, so he had her literally write out like 500 cards that Rob had to go through.
Yes, I do remember that guy. Yeah, that was awful.
the stuff we've blacked out.
Oh, yeah.
Because I remember, you know what? I remember having the conversation with Rob and Dale, going, I'm running this game, and it's going to die in my hands. This is going to be the last year
It
of the LARP."
didn't.
It
It
did,
didn't.
no, but I was convinced it was because it seemed like one bad thing after another was happening.
Sure.
I completely blocked that out. Thanks.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I totally, you know, and I guess in my mind, especially with this peer group, to me it was matriarchal. There were strong females in the group, and that was the thing, and that was fine. I didn't even really notice it, you know. And so I guess really there was no difference. It was as long as you were being respectful, and it didn't matter on the gender, you know. As long as you're a respectful human being, everything was going to be okay. So yeah, I don't notice no difference. How about you, Glenn?
I probably have the broadest diversity of experience amongst everyone here because I've played at so many cons over the years.
Sure.
and I've run at so many cons. But in my early days, I mean, when did we meet, Gretchen? 98?
98.
Yeah.
90, yeah.
That was the first group I played in or ran that had regular female gamers. I didn't even play with a woman in a game until my junior year of college, and it was just by chance at Gen Con. Because at Gen Con, every time I played a game, it was always guys, and my group growing up was just a bunch of guys.
Well, at that time, Gen Con was only guys. I remember being the one girl in the Lone Sea in Milwaukee.
Yeah.
I remember seeing Kat off in the distance going, "Hey, I know her."
Right? You're like, there's like 40 of us.
Right, here we are.
We all know each other. We had a club.
In the
There
sea
are-
of unwashed masses.
There are GMs that I have played with and players that I've played with where they are two different people depending on if there's a girl in the group or not. And I don't mean just along the fact that, you know, there are some guys will just clean up their act a little bit. You know, they might fart less and stuff like that if there's a girl around. Whether it's an act of them trying to, you know, that's just how their mom raised them to be, you know, a little nicer to girls, or that they're like, hey, it's a girl, I won't fart and blow my chance, which I really don't have one, but in my mind I think I do, because, you know, she's one girl out of 800 people who are here, so my odds are really awful that she's probably not here to see me anyways. But I noticed that a lot of times when there was a girl in the group, it kind of moved away from the pure hack and slash, and these were players that I know who are more into hack and slash, where they tried to be more diplomatic, and I think partly was that often the female gamers steered it more that way. They were less likely to simply solve every problem with their sword, because they would think of things like, hey, maybe this guy knows something, as opposed to, hey, that's 100 experience points.
Sure.
But I mean, that's not to say I didn't play with women who were all, you know, let's go kill stuff. But I also noticed that there are players that I would play with, male players that I would play with when we play with a female GM, who would not really get into the game. I mean, there's one guy in particular I know who I've only role played with him once, but I played board games with him several times, and I won't play with him anymore because he is the poster boy for the bad guy in gaming. Because we played one role playing game with a girl, and he left so upset because it ruined the whole experience for him. Because you women aren't logical, you use your emotions too much. This is the same reason he won't play board games with them. And to me, in my mind, I'm going, well, even if that were true, that would make the game more challenging and better, because someone's doing something that you're not used to them doing, which in theory should make for a better game. I mean, diversity in a game in general, having people who do different things, makes for a better game. If everyone always played a fighter in every single game, that gets to be a really boring game after a while.
Yeah.
You know, then I can do that just playing Diablo at home, where I can just run around and hit things with an axe till they all die. But I mean, I haven't experienced, aside from that one guy, I haven't experienced a lot of the really bad stuff, but I have friends who have. And I know there's this, I think the group here, because I really, aside from Gretchen, I really haven't gamed with many of you. I did a little bit of LARP, and that's about it with most of you. But you guys had, the dynamic you guys have up in Point, in that area, that group is, it's, I don't want to say it's like, like a unicorn, it's so rare, but it is.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
It really is an amazing group of people up there. Where there's this, I don't know, it's hard to explain. I don't run across groups like that very often. especially not a group that is that big and that has kind of stuck together for that long.
Sure.
I mean, over 2 decades. A lot of you have known each other. I mean, I'm coming close to that with some of you now too. And I don't know. I like I said, I can't speak for everyone else. Just in my experiences at cons, I can see that it's gotten better, and I think part of it is just that there are more women attending the cons, and I think that has helped a lot. And on top of the fact that those of us that grew up playing these games, who started in myself the late '70s, and most of you guys in the mid '80s, we've grown up and we've had relationships, and many of us have gotten married, and a bunch of us have had kids and stuff like that. So it's, and not to say that the boyfriend or husband brought them in the game, but you had these two gamers that came together.
Yeah.
And now I think that's in a way has grown the community, because you had these people where it's like, this is my wife and she's a gamer. And then I love when people say, oh, well, what did you start with? It's like, oh, no, she got me into gaming.
Yeah.
He was
Yep.
that's one of my great friends down here is didn't game until he was 30. He didn't play role-playing until he was 30. And his wife was his first game master, and she killed him in his very first adventure. So
Knew it was love.
Yeah.
yes. So I think that's a big part of it, is that it's just so many have grown up with it now that it's grown with us.
Sure.
And I think part of it too is that gaming has become less there's less of a stigma attached to it. That it's just the domain of the guy who, spends his entire life in his basement painting little miniatures while doing a podcast. They were podcasts.
There's
But
no
I mean,
judgment, Glenn.
No, I think gaming has moved away from that a lot, where it's almost, to a degree, kind of mainstream. And I mean, a lot of that has to do somewhat with Tabletop's explosion recently, but also video gaming in general really opened up the portals for gaming for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
Because you didn't need to find that group of people to play with.
Well, I have hope for the future. My son is now a second-generation gamer, and he's been doing this since, I don't know, 5th grade. And my attitude had always been, great, yeah, invite all your friends over. We'll pull out the D&D books. I know exactly where you are. I know what you're doing. It's fine, whatever. But last year, he, on several occasions, tried to run a game over the weekend and invited girls, and they showed up. Now, they showed up predominantly two of them showed up because it was social, and one actually kind of got into it. He's also had me play with his friends, which is a little weird and has to be cleaned up. It can't be, a normal our peer group campaign, because I've got a bunch of underage kids sitting around the table, and I could be brought up on charges maybe. But beyond that, it's at least this next generation, and at least what I'm seeing, is they're much more, they don't think this is just a guy thing.
Sure.
Yep, exactly.
They're like, hey, I've got these friends that are cool, and it doesn't really matter what the gender is. They're cool. We all like the same kind of movies. So let's all get together one Saturday and participate in the same type of thing. Now, whether that is role-playing or strategy board gaming or whatever, it seems like this group is less concerned about, oh, this is a guy thing versus, oh, this is a girl thing versus, oh, we can't cross the streams.
Yeah.
Yep. Same with my boys. We started having them sit with us when they were toddlers, when we were doing tabletop D&D, and right around when they hit 13, 14, they started wanting to roll out their own characters, and we certainly encouraged that. Now Jacoby is 20-something.
Oh, God.
And for the last 4 years, even before he moved out of the house,
He's out of the
Tuesday night, Tuesday night is game night and has been for the last 4 or 5 years, and it's board games, it's D&D. He's been running the same campaign for 3 years, and he has confiscated every D&D book that we've had in the house, all the way from the basic stuff I had back in the 80s.
Nice.
That's
Yeah. So, yay for second-generation gamers. Let's go for third.
Yep.
I'm not ready for third just yet.
Neither am I, but,
It's going to happen.
eventually.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's something else, too, is I think that we're a generation that, not to say that we're immature, but we've grown up less. We've stayed in touch with more of the things we enjoyed when we were younger. There's not this whole... These were games. I can't play games anymore because I'm 40. My parents, there's less of that, putting away the childish things. Because when I look back to as kids, who didn't, in a way, role play? Who didn't play on the playground and do, make believe and pretend? And and when I was really young, that was the boys and girls all playing these games together, and there was never a we played one where it was demons and angels, where if the demons tagged you, you became a demon, and there was no this whole you can't catch me because you're a girl. It was simply you got caught. Okay, now I'm a demon. That's just how it worked.
Sure.
And there was this disconnect then as we hit puberty, where the paths kind of diverged for a lot of people, where now it's. And part of it was because all boys became 98% penis, and we're thinking of only one thing for 27 straight years or so. But yeah, it's this. I think we're a generation that has stayed more in touch with a lot of things that we enjoyed when we were younger, and it's not so much that I can't do this anymore because I'm I should be just simply working and paying a mortgage. It's I bought all these damn books in these games, and now I have money to buy these books in these games. Now I don't have the time to play them, but I can keep buying them.
Yeah. Yep.
Support the industry.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yes. So what it boils down to then is just be a good human being, and it shouldn't matter who's running, who's playing. It just you come together if you all enjoy the same thing, and you can be respectful. You have a good time.
And when you see anybody being discriminated against, stand up to that.
Yeah, if
welcome
you see
that
somebody,
person, support them,
absolutely,
and shoot down the asshats.
Yes.
I'd say that goes double if you're a guy and you're seeing someone
absolutely
doing something. It's because when a girl speaks up to the asshat, it's more likely to be laughed off. But when 3 or 4 guys, and not saying that women can't defend themselves, but when the guys stand up to and say, "No, you can't play with us either," it sends that message of I guess I am being a dick because now nobody will play with me, as opposed to the sit there and be quiet because, I don't want to say anything.
And
I don't want to be deemed a pussy because I don't think that making jokes about women is funny.
But I think that unfortunately it's a learned behavior, and I think until somebody comes along and goes, no, what you're doing is absolutely wrong, and nobody's taken the time to tell you it's wrong. If you amplify the voice of that message that what you're doing is wrong, it has more weight. And when you see somebody doing something obviously inappropriate, you need to take a stand and say something. Absolutely, that's the only way it's going to stop.
And help the culprit with empathy. What they're lacking is empathy, and they're afraid of losing their power.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I can't. Yeah, I couldn't even say that enough. Just be a good human being, and when you see somebody doing something wrong, say something, and let the person that has been wronged, know that they're safe now, that they're supported, that that a number of people know that what they did is wrong and they didn't bring it upon themselves in any way, shape, or form. Absolutely.
Here,
And for
here.
God's sakes, don't be the guy who says, "Well, I've never seen that happen."
Yeah.
Never be that guy, because
Nope.
you don't. Never discount someone else's experiences because you personally didn't see it.
Yeah. It
Or
doesn't make it any
experience.
less real. Not at
Right.
all. Okay, well, that was a really and we've gone very long, so I think we need to wrap things up.
No,
Thank
dude, we're gonna talk about your campaign now.
That's right. Sign me up.
Yep.
Let's go.
This is gonna be the
Okay, so are we
4-hour
like
episode.
how long is it after the Civil War?
1889.
Okay, it's a
1890?
while. Okay, like
Yeah.
a whole generation later, right?
Yeah,
Right?
essentially. So, I wanted to, I wanted to be just far enough away from the Civil War and just have a little bit of some of that,
Well,
some science, a little bit of, change and progress made. And it does take place in the Arizona territory.
Team Tesla. Team Tesla.
2 words.
Steampunk werewolf. There we go.
Woohoo!
Yep.
You
Steampunk
people are
werewolf.
beautiful.
Why are we not
Thank you so
playing
much.
this right now?
Thank you so much for hosting.
Yes, thank you for hosting. Thank you for inviting me to participate in this and hang out with all these wonderful people.
No, absolutely, and like I said, we don't get to talk and or game enough, and I really wanted you guys to. I wanted to make sure I got this right, and I couldn't do it by myself. I needed you guys to help make sure that a
Keep
good
it real.
well, a good message is sent out, and we can kind of dispel some of the myths and or let people know what to do if things are inappropriate. And I couldn't have thought of a better group to bring together for it. So thank you very much for that.
It's been fabulous. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Even with the hang up in the middle. So. You can keep on top of what Adventure Party is up to by following Galactic Netcasts on Twitter, by liking our Facebook page, or subscribing to our YouTube channel. We also have accounts on some other social media platforms like Google+, but I don't care about Google+, to be honest. So there you go. Just search for Galactic Netcasts, or click on... just trying to be honest. Or click on corresponding logos on the top right of our main webpage at gncasts.com. You can also support all that Galactic Netcasts does by making a monthly reoccurring pledge at patreon.com/galacticnetcasts. Your $1, $3, or $5 a month bit of support can help pay for some of the web hosting and audio hosting that we now use to make sure that folks can. We were getting throttled on our previous hosting, so we wanted to make sure that folks could listen without impediment. And the best part of this is at every level of support that you can show us, you can get some bonus content that other listeners won't have access to. So if you are able to contribute, you can go to patreon.com/galacticnetcasts. For more on this podcast, including show notes, contact information, or more, you can go to gncasts.com/adventure. And you can also subscribe to this podcast by going to gncasts.com/subscribe, or search for us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play Music, which is a new addition here, or anywhere fine podcasts are offered. And in my thank you, I have from the show that did not happen last week. Hey, everybody. Kat Lemmer, thank you very much for joining us.
It's been great.
And Dawn
Clearly,
Schrader.
this
thank
is
you
how
very
I get to see you guys once a year.
Hey, we gotta work on that.
Dawn, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And Gretchen.
Thanks, guys.
It's your second time, so I think with 3 you get a T-shirt.
What?
Awesome.
I'm totally
Excellent.
making that up. There are no T-shirts. I want to do a T-shirt, but I
There
haven't.
needs to be a T-shirt now. You just said.
Yes, it's on the internet.
Rule 34. Bit me in the ass. Is it Rule 34?
I can't wait for the third time and my T-shirt.
Oh, it's not Rule 34. We don't want Rule 34.
No, we don't.
No, no. Whatever rule that is on the interwebs, that when you say something, it happens on the internets. That's the rule I meant. We'll just go with that. I'll edit that out in post. It'll be fine.
It'll be fantastic.
Todd's at the window again, you guys. He's gonna do something.
And Jessica.
For freedom.
For freedom.
Oh my gosh, I got the war bond.
God, oh God.
Quincy Risk, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. Ugh, I miss playing that character.
I miss
Peace,
you
y'all.
playing that character too. I'm not gonna lie.
Well.
Good night.
It's the only time in my life I can actually be suave. Jessica Benton, thank you so much
Thank you,
for
everyone.
joining us. And thank you to everyone who has joined us on the Adventure Party. May your characters never die and your adventures always be epic. Thank you and good night.